Okay, we will start the session right now. Okay. In today's session, we are going to learn details regarding hydrostatic bearing. Typically, we are going to learn the type of hydrostatic bearing is step bearing. So, how step bearing works and how the pressure requirement and the flow requirement in the step bearing are evaluated. So, today we are going to learn hydrostatic bearing. In detail, we are learning step bearing and the power losses in the hydrostatic bearing. So this is an typical diagram of pressure distribution across circular step bearing. So let's go to the topic, our topic of discussion today. Okay. So we are considering here a small hydrostatic bearing, circular hydrostatic bearing. I am shown the hydrostatic step diagram here. So what we are going to do, we are going to support an axis shaft having axial load. So this is a shaft, rotating shaft having axial load W. As said, it's an axial load. It is not necessarily your shaft is vertical. Your shaft can be horizontal, inclined, or vertical, depending upon the application requirement. But the load acting on that shaft is an axial load. So to support such axial load, normally you require thrust bearing, and typically thrust bearing used in the sliding contact bearing are of hydrostatic in nature. So mostly hydrostatic bearing, when we talk about, we always come to know footstep bearing, step bearing. So step bearing is one of them. So normally step bearing is used for supporting axial load, either vertical, horizontal, or inclined, with the help of a fluid pressure. With the help of a lubricant pressure, they can be supported. So let's understand the working of this. So this is an shaft rotating at n RPM, having outer radius of the shaft is say RO. Then there may be a races provided in the shaft end here where it is supported. Uh, Sometimes it is provided, sometimes it is not provided. So in that case, that Ri will become the this whole diameter where through which the pressurized fluid will be supplied. So a pressurized fluid will come with a pressure Pi, and then it will leave from the bottom of this end. It will come out here, and it will be come out with a pressure PO. Now, normally, this pressure PO is an atmospheric pressure. In some cases, this pressure may be less than atmospheric pressure or may be greater than atmospheric pressure. So this fluid will be passed through a delta P, that is Pi minus PO, across this restricted area. This restricted area thickness is equal to H naught, and this H naught becomes, when the fluid is passing, this H naught is nothing but your fluid film thickness. What is the film thickness at this point? That is called minimum film thickness. So that minimum film thickness H naught will depend upon your supply pressure and your load acting there, as well as the support area available here. So to understand the step bearing in detail, so let's go to the nomenclature here. So what we are having W here is the thrust load. So which thrust load is the axial load acting on that shaft. RO, outer radius of the shaft. This RO, this is the RO, outer radius of the shaft. RI, that is inner radius of the races or pocket. So this is the pocket or races created here. So the inner radius of that pocket is equal to Ri. Then Pi, that is the supply pressure of the fluid. So fluid is coming through this hole, which is pumped. So it will be supplied at pumping pressure Pi. So Pi is your supply pressure, which will be in terms of Newton per millimeter square or megapascal. Then this fluid will be coming out outside this bearing. So that is the PO, that is the outlet or atmospheric pressure. Mostly in majority of the cases, it is an atmospheric pressure. But if it is a closed circuit, then it can be outlet pressure. And then that outlet pressure may be greater than your atmospheric pressure also, or less than atmospheric pressure, depending upon the application. So it will be specified. If it is not specified, this PO can be taken as atmospheric gauge pressure. And atmospheric gauge pressure is considered as zero. So then delta P will be just the value of Pi in terms of gauge pressure. So Pi minus PO will be your delta P across this bearing. Then H naught, that is the fluid film thickness in millimeter. So that this is the fluid film, what is the minimum fluid film thickness here passing. So the fluid is having. So that thickness is called as H naught. And how much flow is going. So this fluid will be going and going here. So how much amount of fluid is passed through this bearing? That is the flow of the lubricant, which will be taken in millimeter cube per second. And we are using a lubricant here. So lubricant will have viscosity. So the mu is the viscosity of the lubricant, which is normally expressed in terms of Newton second per millimeter square or megapascal per second. Okay, so this is the nomenclature for given step bearing. This is a step bearing. We support this axial load of or thrust load of W. Now to analyze this bearing, we required the flow rate. So the flow rate of the channel. People are entering with the email ID other than HSCM. Those are entering late. Please enter with your valid email ID. Let's coming back to our topic, the flow. This formula we have seen in the last. This formula is and we have seen in the last lecture, that is Q is equal to delta P BH cube upon 12 mu L. So in this, delta P is the pressure difference across the lubricant here. B is the dimension perpendicular to the flow. H is the dimension again perpendicular to the flow, and mu is the dynamic viscosity of that lubricant, and L is the length along the flow. Now, if you come to here, so we have, this is the bearing component. So in this bearing component, the flow is happening radially outward. So liquid is coming here, and then it is going radially outward in all directions. So if I take the top view of this diagram, so top view of this diagram, this is my outer radius. So this is the outer circle, that is the shaft diameter. Then there is a pocket radius inside, that is Ri. So this is my inner radius Ri. So inner radius circle. So there is a pocket here. So the fluid pressure, the lubricant is coming with pressure Pi here, and then it is moving outside away in the radial direction. It is going in the radial direction in all directions. So the flow is in the radial direction here. In the step bearing, right now the flow of the lubricant here is in radial direction. So the length L in the direction of fluid flow. Now then what will be the L in the direction of fluid flow? So let's say we want to analyze this problem. So what we are considering, we are taking a small thickness dr here at radius r. We take at radius r small thickness dr. So we take a circular element here. We have taken a circular element having thickness dr and radius r. So what is the flow across this thickness? So in this case, the flow, we are considering flow across this length. So the length in the flow direction is dr. So the length in the direction of fluid flow is dr here in this case. Then perpendicular dimension. So the perpendicular dimension here is h naught, and another perpendicular dimension, since it is circular geometry, so we required only h naught value. Delta P we are assuming here. So the delta P across this small element, delta P we are assuming as a small elemental pressure loss, say dP. Now we are going to put this value in our standard equation 1. So delta P will be put as dP. B will be determined and put there. The value of B is this length. That is the peripheral length of this elemental distance. So that will be 2 pi r. That length will be equal to 2 pi r. So when you put this value here, delta P is equal to dP, B is equal to 2 pi r, H is equal to h naught, mu as it is, and L is equal to dr. So what we will have the relation here. So we are putting here Q is equal to dP we have taken outside. B is equal to 2 pi r. So 2 pi r when you put here, so that 2 will get cancelled 12 here. So we will get pi r upon 6. Then h naught cube, h will be placed there. H will be placed as h naught. So h naught cube upon mu. L here is dr. So dr we have that L value we have taken outside as dr. So we have this relation dp by dr into pi r h naught upon 6 mu. Now there is an introduction of a sign called negative sign here. So why we have introduced this negative sign? Whenever flow happens, the flow happens always in the negative slope. That is dp by dr has to be negative. Otherwise the flow will be radially inward. In this case, we are supplying the fluid at the center and it is going outside. So as the radius increases, the pressure has to decrease. The dp by dr has to be negative. That is dp by dr is negative. So this negative and negative will become sign positive and the flow in the outward direction will be happening there. If this dp by dr is positive and if you take this positive and then this is negative, then the flow will happen radially inward. So since we are supplying fluid at the center, naturally fluid has to go outside. So naturally the pressure at the center point should be high at compared to the pressure at the outer radius. So dp by dr, if you plot the graph p versus radius, and if you take the slope of that p versus r graph, that is dp by dr, that slope has to be always negative for the flow in the radially outward direction. So that's why we have introduced negative sign here. So we get Q is equal to pi r h naught cube upon 6 mu into dp by dr. So this is the second equation by and this negative sign is introduced so that the flow comes positive here. Let's reorganize this term to determine dp here. So rest all the things will be taken on the left side here. So we get dp is equal to minus 6 mu cube upon pi h naught cube upon dr into dr by r. Now in this we find if you take a particular lubricant, mu will be constant. We require certain quantity of fluid flow, so Q will be also almost constant. H naught, we require minimum seal thickness, so H naught will be constant. So this delta P will depend upon the position where we are measuring, that is that R and dr value. So to get the value of pressure at any point across this radius R, we can integrate this limit. So this is a differential form equation. So we can integrate this equation to get the pressure at, say, what is the pressure at this point, say P. So to determine this value of P, we have to integrate this equation. So the P is equal to integration of this. That is, this is constant. So this will remain 6 mu q upon pi h naught q. Integration of dr by r is log r. That is ln r or log to the base e r plus constant of integration. So now if you look at this diagram, so if you start plotting this pressure here, we are supplying pressure Pi. So at the center point there is a pocket. So there is a radius. So at the center point, ideally you will find there is a equal pressure. But in reality, this is not the case. In reality also you will find slightly pressure at the center high and then it is slightly decreasing. Even though it is a radius there, you will find small decrease in the pressure. But for ideal condition, we can assume in the radius, we have uniform pressure Pi. So if you plot the pressure from R is equal to 0 to R is equal to Ri, you will have supply pressure that is equal to Pi. Then since now it is flowing through a rectangular channel here, now this will be a rectangular channel and in this there will be restriction to the flow. So what will be happening? As there is a restriction to the flow by fluid friction and another friction, the pressure will drop there. The gauge pressure of that lubricant will drop there. So as your R changes from Ri to Ro, there will be pressure drop here. There will be pressure drop, and that at outside radius Ro, the pressure will be equal to PO. The gauge pressure equal to PO, and sometimes this gauge pressure will be equal to the atmospheric pressure, and that atmospheric pressure gauge pressure is considered as zero pressure. Okay, so to evaluate the constant C, you have to use the boundary condition. So boundary condition tells that when P, your R is equal to Ri, P is equal to Pi, and outer boundary condition, what we have, at R is equal to Ro, P is equal to PO, or if it is atmospheric pressure, PO will be equal to 0. So we can evaluate the constant of integration by putting boundary condition. So that we have done in the second slide. Next slide. So applying the boundary condition, to understand that same diagram, I have repeated diagram here so that you will not lose the connect with this diagram. So we are applying the boundary condition. So first boundary condition we are applying, that is when R is equal to RO, that is the outside radius. When R is equal to RO, you have your gauge pressure. Suppose if you assume the lubricant is released to the atmosphere there, so gauge pressure, that is PO, is equal to 0 there. Gauge pressure, that is P, is equal to PO, and that is equal to 0 there. So if you put this value of 0 gauge pressure there, the constant of integration with this boundary condition is equal to 6 mu q upon pi h naught cube into log RO. So C is equal to this value. Now this value can be substituted in equation 3. This equation 3 is in the previous slide. So the equation for pressure at any location, P is equal to 6 mu cube upon pi h naught cube upon log of RO upon small r. RO upon small r. There was negative sign. So negative sign will become as division there. So this is with positive sign. So it will come as denominator, and this R will come as numerator here. So log of RO upon small r. Now second boundary condition, if I apply second boundary condition tells that P is equal to Pi when R is equal to Ri. That is when P is equal to when R is equal to Ri here. At this point, your pressure is equal to supply pressure, that is equal to gauge pressure Pi. So you can put this value. So we will have this relation Pi is equal to 6 mu cube upon pi h naught cube upon log of RO upon R. So how much supply pressure is required? That is decided by this relation. So if you know your pocket radius, if you know the outer radius of your shaft, and if you know the flow rate requirement, and if you know the minimum film thickness and the dynamic viscosity of the lubricant, you can determine how much supply pressure is required. So you can set the supply pressure from the supply line, and you can use this supply pressure in the supporting that load. So this is the relation for supply pressure. If you reorganize this relation, you can get the relation for the how much quantity of flow required there, fluid quantity flow required there. So you can write down Q is equal to here, reorganizing this equation, pi Pi into H naught cube upon 6 mu log to the base E RO upon Ri. So this equation 5 gives you the flow requirement for that bearing. So these are the critical parameters when we talk about hydrostatic bearing. What is the supply pressure required, and what is the flow rate required for given minimum H naught to be maintained based on the inside radius and outside radius condition, and based on your load carrying capacity. Now these are the supply pressure and flow requirement based on this thing. But then what is the load carrying capacity of that fluid film? How much load it can carry, or how we can decide how much load your bearing can carry? So the load carrying capacity we can do by integration here. So if I say this is the pressure intensity here, so this is a rectangular area. So if you take this Pi pressure and if you take the areas here, so this area into this Pi, we get load taken by this element, and then the remaining load will be taken by this element. But here the pressure is varying. Here the pressure is varying. So here in this region pressure is varying, and this area is here. That is the annular area here. So you have to use that annular area and pressure variation. So this can be done by integration. This can be done only by your rectangular area concept. So the first part is a rectangular area concept. So W is equal to Pi into pi Ri square. That is the first part here, this part here. And the second part, that is where the pressure is varying. So your pressure is varying from Ri to Ro. So what is your pressure content, instantaneous pressure value? You are considering this element having dr. So we are having this area, elemental area is equal to B. B is equal to 2 pi r, and dr, rectangular area, so 2 pi r dr. So you can integrate this equation between Ri2 and Ro, and you can determine your load carrying capacity of hydrostatic bearing or shape bearing here. This is the load carrying capacity relation we are looking for circular step bearing. So let's put these values of P there. So this value of P is here in this equation 4. So from equation 4 we can get the value of P here. So we can put this value in the equation from the equation 4 here. So we are putting this value. So while putting this value, the constant terms we are taking outside. So constant terms of 12, mu, Q, and H naught will be taken outside. And whatever remaining here, log of Ro upon Ri and R dr is remaining. So this is the equation 6. Now this integration is not easy integration. So you know how to do this integration. This integration will be done by parts. So one part you can consider as U. So you can consider U is equal to log of Rho upon Ri. And you can consider another part is V. So that V is equal to, you consider V is equal to RdR. So considering this U integration of U, V, and so you can determine this integration by parts, as well as you can put the value of Q from this relation 5 here. So by integration by parts and putting the value of Q from equation 5, you will get the load carrying capacity. That is the simplified equation. I am not going to the app. You can do this calculation on piece of paper, and finally you will get this relation. W is equal to pi pi by 2 taken common outside into bracket Rho square minus Ri square upon log of Rho upon Ri. So this is the load carrying capacity relation for your step bearing. So equation 7 indicates the load carrying capacity. So based on capacity also, you can determine the supply pressure. Supply pressure can be determined by this relation as well as this relation. So what is the minimum supply pressure required? So minimum supply pressure required can be determined by this relation. This will give the actual supply pressure required, but this will give you the minimum supply pressure. So to take that particular load, we have to maintain Pi greater than this value. The supply pressure to be maintained in the step bearing has to be maintained than the minimum required by this relation. So if you know this value of load to be supported, and you know the geometry of your step bearing, so from that you can determine the supply pressure, minimum supply pressure required. So the above equations can be used. This equation can be used even if there is races. Suppose there is no races here. That if I go to the diagram, previous diagram, you can understand that. Suppose there is no race or no pocket here. Your shaft is having material here. So entire your shaft is not having any pocket here. Then how to use that your relation? So in that relation, your liquid through a small hole here. So you can consider the radius of this hole as a radius there. You can consider radius of this hole as a radius. So and then you can do this analysis there. So the above equation can be used even if there is no radius. In this case, the Ri value will be taken as radius of supply pipe. Ri value will be taken as radius of supply pipe. That value may be very, very small, no issue. So that radius of supply pipe also can be used into the consideration while calculating load carrying capacity. Now, if races or pad is provided, then you have to use the sizes of races or sizes of pad as Ri. Don't use other values. So this is regarding your load requirement, supply pressure requirement, as well as flow requirement. Now, there will be some losses in this bearing. So, and the next part I'm having the derivation for the losses. So there will be energy losses in hydrostatic bearing. This is I'm typically talking about the hydrostatic bearing. So what type of loss will be there or additional energy required for maintaining this lubrication? So total energy consumed in hydrostatic bearing will comprise of pumping power, because you have to supply pressurized liquid, so it has to be pumped. So pumping power is required, as well as there is a friction power in the bearing. Means some energy will be lost as a friction power in the bearing. So let's evaluate one by one. So let's evaluate how much pumping power is required. Pumping power, that EP depends upon your how much is the flow rate and how much is the delta P. That is Q into delta P. So delta P is equal to Pi minus PO. And Q, we have used the relation. So Q from relation 4, you can get the value of Q. Now, when you are evaluating this, you can use this value in terms of millimeter cube per second, and Pi minus PO, you can use in terms of Newton per millimeter square, or you can use in terms of megapascal. So if you put this value Q in terms of millimeter cube per second, so you can convert into Newton meter per second. So for that, you can multiply by 10 raised to minus 3. So this value is nothing but watt. Suppose you want this value of energy energy utilized in pumping. So you want to calculate in kilowatt. So to this product, you can multiply by 10 raised to another minus 10 raised to minus 6. So where Q is in millimeter cube per second and Pi minus Po is in Newton per millimeter square. Pi minus Po is in Newton per millimeter square, or it is in megapascal. So you can get the pumping power in kilowatt here by using this relation. Now to determine the frictional power, if you go back to your slide here. Now on this elemental area, a small tangential force will be acting, that is because of fluid friction. So that tangential force, differential force, I am considering as a dF. So to determine the value of dF, I am using Newton's law of viscosity. I am using Newton's law of viscosity. So considering the elemental frictional force on that elemental strip and using Newton's law of viscosity, dF is equal to mu A into A by U by H. Now let's put the area of that elemental strip. Let's put the velocity of the fluid at that location and the H value at that location. So for the elemental strip, area here is equal to 2 pi r dr. The tangential velocity at that location, tangential velocity of the lubricant, U is equal to omega r, and omega is equal to 2 pi n by 60 into r. So omega will be 2 pi n by 60 into r. So that is your tangential velocity. And h is the h naught. If you see this diagram on the first slide, we have h is not at any radius. This h naught is not going to change. So between these, the thickness is remaining same. So h is equal to h naught. So if you go to the next slide again, so we have h is equal to h naught. If you put all these values in this equation, so differential tangential force here, the elemental tangential force comes out to be 4 pi square upon 60 into mu n by h naught into r square dr. So this is the relation 8, equation 8. So this is the tangential force. Now this tangential force is acting tangential to that elemental strip. This is the tangential force acting tangential to that elemental strip, that is the radial elemental strip. Therefore, we have to determine what is the frictional torque. So therefore, elemental frictional torque, that is dMTF, D for differential, MT for the torque required, and F is the torque required to overcome that friction. So we have frictional force dF. It is acting at radius r, so torque will be equal to r into dF. So to this relation, if I multiply by r, I will get the elemental torque. So elemental frictional torque is equal to 4 pi square upon 60 into mu n by h naught into r cube dr. So this is the equation 9. Now this is an elemental torque for a small elemental thickness dr. Now if you want to determine how much is the total frictional torque, so total frictional torque can be evaluated by integrating this equation. So integrating equation 9. So the total frictional torque MTF, F stands for friction. So total frictional torque required to overcome the friction here, 4 pi square upon 60 mu n by h naught here will be constant. So that will be outside here into Ri by Ro raised to r cube into dr. Okay. So if you put this value here of if you solve this, r cube by this will come as r raised to 4 by 4. And if you put the limits here, Ri and Ro, so we have 4 pi square by 60 mu n by h naught into bracket Ro square minus Ri raised to 4, Ro raised to 4 minus Ri raised to 4 upon 4. Okay, if you reorganize this, 4 will get cancelled. So this is the final relation, equation 10, which will be talking about the frictional torque. Now, whenever there is a frictional torque, your shaft is rotating at constant speed. So the power loss in friction can be evaluated here. So power loss in friction, EF. E stands for energy and F stands for friction. So frictional energy loss in friction here. Now this is a mechanical power. So because it is rotating, so I'm using the formula for mechanical power. So 2 pi n mt upon 60 into 10 to 6. Since mt we can use in Newton millimeter here, so that's why I've used here 10 to 6, so that I get the value in terms of kilowatt. Okay, so we are putting this value here. So you are going to put the value of mt by this relation equation t. So all that equation 10 value will be put here. So this relation will come as 2 pi cube upon 36,000 mu n square by h naught into Ro raised to 4 upon Ri raised to 4. If we solve this, this relation comes as 1 upon 58.05 into 10 raised to 6. 58.10 raised to 6 mu n raised to square upon h naught rho raised to 4 minus ri raised to 4. Okay, so if you put all these relations here, so we get this value in terms of kilowatt. So you can put this value of rho and ri in millimeter here, n in rpm, h naught in millimeter, and this value also in Newton second per millimeter. Okay, so therefore the total power loss in this hydrostatic bearing will be equal to pumping power requirement plus frictional power loss. So ET, that is total power required for hydrostatic bearing here, will be equal to EP plus EF. So that from that you can determine how much energy is required for supporting this load W. So to support the load W, we require ET, that is equal to EP plus EF. Okay, take this one problem here. Let's take one problem here. Let's go to the take. I'll take the attainment. Okay. Let's go back to the problem now. I have taken the attendance, mid attendance. Let's go back to the problem now. So I have taken one very small problem. So you can learn that problem. Say we are having just one. Okay, so let's read the problem first. I have taken step bearing analysis here. Hydrostatic thrust bearing. This is an hydrostatic thrust bearing consisting of 4 pads. I have already demonstrated what is meant by recess, what is meant by pocket, what is meant by pads in our first lecture. As shown in figure, neglecting the flow over the corner, each pad can be approximated as a circular area. Each pad can be approximated as a circular area with outer and inner diameters of 200 mm and 50 mm respectively. The thrust load acting here is 300 kN and the film thickness to be maintained is around 0.1 mm. The viscosity and specific gravity of the lubricating oil are 250 Sebolt universal second and 0.88 respectively. So specific gravity is given instead of density. Calculate the supply pressure requirement and flow requirement of the bearing. Also determine the power loss in the bearing if the shaft is rotating at 750 rpm. So let's understand. This is the top view of your shaft. This is the top view of your shaft end. At the bottom of the shaft, the bearing surface has 4 pads. Pad number 1, pad number 2, and pad number 3, and pad number 4. So what they are asked, you can consider this pad is a circular pad. Right now it is not a circular pad. There is a circular hole through which your pressurized liquid is coming here. Another pad, the circular hole is here. So through which a pressurized lubricant will come. Third pad and fourth pad, this circular hole is there through which pressurized liquid is come. So what is considered, this pad is not a circular pad here, but it is asked to that neglecting the flow over the corners, flow over these corners here, neglecting the flow over the corner, each pad can be approximated as a circular area. So you have to assume that this is a circular pad. So we have drawn one pad, we have taken outside here, we have drawn that diagram. So the whole diameter here is 50 mm, that is thick. At this pad, now we are approximating as a pad having circular area, having diameter 200 mm, So all such, there are 4 pads in this pad. So we are assuming each pad takes equal load. So what we have load, the total load here is 300 Newton load. So load on each pad will be divided by number of pads here. So load on each pad will be then here 75 kg. Okay. So that's why we have written here W here for one pad. So we are doing the analysis of one pad because there is a similarity concept. So you will not analyze all 4 pads separately. Since they are having equal size, equal shape, and they are sharing equal load, so let's find out how much load is taken by each pad. So one pad takes load equal to total load upon number of pads 4. So load taken here is 75 kilonewton. Then the pad dimensions here, the outside radius of the pad, that is RO here, diameter given here is 200 mm. So that is equal to DO by 2. That is 200 by 2, that is 100 mm. So outside radius of your pad here is 100 mm. Inside radius of your pad, that is equal to your supply pressure line. That is equal to your, that diameter is given as 50 mm. So DI by 2, that is 50 by 2, that is 25 mm. Then there is a gap between shaft and the bearing surface. So that gap is need to be maintained is 0.1 mm. So we have to maintain a film thickness of 0.1 mm. So the minimum gap has to be maintained equal to H naught, that is equal to 0.1 mm. Then we have lubricant here having specific gravity. Lubricant specific gravity here is rho s is equal to 0.88. It is not density, it is the specific gravity here, that is equal to 0.88. So if we compare with the water, this value is equal to the density, say 1 gram per centimeter cube. So this value will be equal to 0.88 gram per centimeter cube. Then the time required, this lubricant is having kinematic viscosity equivalent to 250 Seebolt universal second. So you have given time here T is equal to 250 Seebolt universal second. Now let's determine the mu value for lubricant here. To determine the mu value for lubricant here, we have to use certain calculation. You have been given here kinematic viscosity of oil in terms of Seebolt universal second. That is, you have to use Seebolt viscometer. For Seebolt viscometer, we have a relation. This relation I have explained in the last lecture. So previous lecture, second last lecture. So ZK, that is the kinematic viscosity equal to 0.22 T minus 180 minus T, where T is the Seebolt universal second. So Seebolt universal seconds are here 250. So if I put this value of 250 seconds here, so we get the ZK is equal to 54.28 centisecond. This is kinematic viscosity, and kinematic viscosity is equal to dynamic viscosity upon density. Since this you can take in gram per centimeter cube, so this value comes as 0.88. So ZK is 54.228. So Z is equal to ZK into rho s here. So 54.228 into 0.88. So this value comes in centipoise, that is equal to 47.76. So this is your viscosity, dynamic viscosity in centipoise. Now you require this value in terms of Newton second per millimeter square or megapascal second. So for that you have to multiply this value by 10 to minus 9. So we get mu is equal to, you have to multiply this Z value in terms of 10 to minus 9. So that is equal to 47.76 into 10 to minus 9 Newton second per millimeter square or megapascal second. Okay, so you have got this value of mu. So you have to determine now supply pressure and flow requirement. We can we have different formulas here. So we have this formula, load formula for minimum supply pressure. Minimum supply pressure required by load formula W is equal to 5 pi upon 2 into RO raised to square minus RI square upon log of RO upon RI. If we reorganize these terms, so we get the value of minimum pressure required here, Pi. So minimum pressure Pi is equal to 2W into log of RO upon RI upon pi into RO square upon RI square. Let's put the values of known quantities here. W is 75 kilonewton, so that is 75,000 Newton. Log of RO upon RI. RO is 100, RI is 25. So divide I into RO square, 100 square minus RI square, 25 square. So this value, the minimum pressure required here to support this bearing is equal to 7.06 Newton per millimeter square. That is 7.06 megapascal. So you require here minimum pressure of 7.06 megapascal. Similarly, you can do the calculation of a flow requirement Q. So next slide, we have done the calculation of flow requirement here. Okay, so the flow requirement for the bearing Q, this formula, that is equation 4 we have used here, that is pi pi into h naught upon 6 mu into log of RO upon RI. So pi value we have evaluated right now. The minimum supply pressure requirement is 7.06. Minimum thickness to be required here is 0.1 mm. So 0.1 raised to cube upon 6 mu. Mu here is 47.76 into 10 raised to minus 9 log of Rho upon Ri. Rho is 100, Ri is 25. So this value you get in millimeter cube per second. So this value is in millimeter cube per second. If this value is small, means large, you can express in terms of liters per second. So if you divide by 1000, you get liters per second. Okay. So this much of flow is required here. Now to determine the energy loss here or energy required here to maintain this bearing, so we require pumping energy. So pumping energy is equal to Q into Pi minus Po into 10 raised to minus 6. So Q value we are taking in millimeter cube per second. So Q value in millimeter cube per second is put here. Pi minus Po. Pi is your gauge pressure required here is 7.06 minimum. And Po, we are assuming this, we are releasing this lubricant to the atmosphere. So gauge pressure of atmospheric is 0 into 10 raised to minus 6 to convert this value in terms of kilowatt. So we get the pumping power requirement for this bearing is 0.394 kilowatt. Similarly, you can evaluate power loss in friction EF, that is 1 upon 58.05 into 10 raised to 6 mu n square upon h naught into Rho square minus Ri square. We are putting the values here. Mu is 47.76 into 10 raised to minus 9. RPM speed given for the shaft is 750 RPM, so 750 square upon h naught value is 0.1. Rho raised to 4, that is 100 raised to 4 minus 25 raised to 4. So this value comes out to be 0.46 kilowatt. So 0.46 kilowatt energy is lost in friction. 0.394 kilowatt is required for pumping so that we maintain that pressure, we maintain that minimum film thickness. Therefore, total power loss in the bearing here, total power loss in the bearing or power required to maintain that bearing, ET is equal to EP plus EF, that is 0.394 plus 0.46, that is equal to 0.854 kilowatt. So you required here 0.854 kilowatt or you required here 854 watt energy to maintain that bearing. So it's very simple, but this is a fluid flow analysis is involved in this bearing and which requires the knowledge of fluid mechanics, which requires the knowledge of the geometry, and which requires the type of relation you have to use for Q. So since it is a circular, the standard formula is available. For circular geometry, the standard formula is available, so you can use the standard formula. If your geometry, if your pad geometry is not circular, non-circular, then the flow requirement formula, basic formula you have to use. The basic formula is this. Your basic formula for flow requirement is this. So if your non-standard pads are there, if the pads are non-circular, then you have to use this formula. Whatever today we have learned is for circular geometry, but if your geometry is not circular, then you have to use your basic formula for Q. This is the basic formula for Q, and based on that, you can determine the flow requirement for non-circular geometry. So there may be the shaft, or there may be some weight we are supporting. Sometimes there may be a element which may not be rotating, but it has to be supported, and there should not be a metal-to-metal contact. So under this element, high pressure liquid will be passed, and to maintain that minimum film thickness, you need to know what is the flow requirement there. Based on the delta P value, what is the flow requirement there? So then in that case, you may have a rectangular pad there. So you may have rectangular pad, you may have a square pad, you may have trapezoidal pad, depending upon the geometry there. So in such cases, you have to use this basic formula to determine the flow rate. There are some sums in the Bhandari. So if you refer the Bhandari book, so there are some non-circular pad problems that they have covered. So they have used this basic formula. In that basic formula, delta P, that is the pressure difference across the bearing. B is the dimension, that is the flow dimension, perpendicular dimension to the flow. What is the length perpendicular to the flow dimension? So that based on your flow, please put the flow dimension, flow direction, and measure the length perpendicular to the flow direction, that is called B. H0 is the gap where we are supporting, that's the minimum film thickness. And L is the length in the direction of flow. So if you have flow direction, so across that flow direction, where the pressure transfer takes place, measure that length and use that length in the calculation. So that gives you the Q here. This is very, very fundamental. Don't go L means length of the component. It is not length of the component. It is the length of the geometry or dimension in which the flow is taking place. And B is the length of the geometry perpendicular to the flow direction. Perpendicular to the flow direction. So B and L, selection of B and L for that non-circular geometry is very important. Then only you will get the correct value of Q. Otherwise, your calculation will go wrong. So you may have this geometry, rectangular geometry like this, having a rectangular basis inside. Then how to calculate Q? So this is the formula, basic formula to be used. No integration required. You can directly use this formula and you can determine the approximate value of Q required. Okay, so this is regarding hydrostatic bearing, and in detail step bearing we have learned today, and one problem we have solved here. So similar problems you can solve from the PhD data book. So I have completed my presentation here. So if you have doubt, you can ask by unmuting, or you can ask put in your chat box.